Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take complex stuff and try to make it clear, give you insights you can actually use.
That's the goal.
And today, we're diving into something that hits home for, well, millions of families. Peanut allergy. If you've seen the anxiety, the constant label reading, the, sheer panic about accidental exposure, you get it. It's this constant shadow.
It really is. And the standard advice for so long was just strict avoidance.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly hard to pull off perfectly.
Yeah.
There's studies showing the risk is always there. One found preschool kids had like 0.8 reactions per year on average,
right,
even when families were trying so hard.
Wow, 0.8 per year. That really highlights the challenge. Yeah. So the big question then becomes, what if you could do more than just avoid peanuts?
Exactly.
What if you could actually somehow change how a child's body reacts to them? That's what we're digging into today. Our mission here is to unpack some really groundbreaking research, specifically the Immune Tolerance Network's IMPACT-T trial and the follow-up studies that came after.
Yeah.
We want to pull out the key findings, the surprising bits, and what it all means, practically.
Yeah, and just to make sure we're all on the same page, there are two terms you'll hear a lot. First is desensitization.
Okay.
That basically means being able to tolerate more peanut protein without reacting, but only while you're actually on the therapy. Your threshold goes up.
Got it. So it works while you're doing it.
Right. And then the other term, maybe the ultimate aim, is remission.
Remission.
That's when someone stays non-responsive even after they stop the immunotherapy.
Ah, okay. So they stop the treatment, but they can still eat peanuts safely.
That's the idea. It's a pretty powerful concept, and that's what we'll be exploring.
Okay, so let's get into it. The IMPACT trial. Why was it needed? I mean, you mentioned the burden of avoidance, but how big is this problem?
It's significant. Peanut allergy affects about 2% of kids in the U.S., often for life. And as we said, that risk of severe reactions from accidentally eating peanut is, well, it's substantial. Avoidance is just tough, day in, day out.
Right.
So the approach they tested was oral immunotherapy, or OIT.
OIT.
Yeah. It involves giving tiny, carefully measured, and increasing amounts of peanut protein. The idea is to sort of retrain the immune system.
Okay.
Now, OIT wasn't brand new, but most earlier trials, they focused on older kids, school-age kids.
Right.
There was this real gap in understanding, what happens if you try this with very young children, toddlers, basically. Their immune systems are still developing, maybe more adaptable.
Ah, interesting. So hitting that earlier window, and IMPACT went right there.
Exactly. IMPACT was really the first major trial like it, randomized.
Meaning assigned by chance?
Yep, double blind.
So nobody knew who got the real peanut powder versus the placebo.
Correct. Placebo-controlled and multi-centered, done at several hospitals, which makes the results more reliable. And critically, it focused on these very young kids, 12 months old up to just under 4 years old.
That's a big step.
Huge. And these weren't kids with mild sensitivity. They had to react to 500 milligrams or less of peanut protein to get in. For some, that's like less than a quarter of one peanut.
Wow. Okay. So how did the treatment work?
It was a long haul. 134 weeks. That's about 2.5 years of taking this peanut protein dose daily. They gradually increased it up to 2,000 milligrams a day.
2.5 years?
Yeah. And then, importantly, that was followed by 26 weeks, 6 months of no peanut at all, complete avoidance.
Ah, the avoidance phase, to see if the effect lasted on its own.
Precisely. They measured desensitization right at the end of treatment, week 134.
Yeah.
Then they measured remission after that avoidance period at week 160.
And how did they measure it?
With the gold standard.
Yeah.
Double-blind, placebo-controlled food challenges, carefully giving increasing amounts of peanut, up to 5,000 milligrams, to see who reacted.
Okay, the moment of truth. So after all that, what were the results? Were they good?
They were more than good. They were pretty dramatic. For desensitization at week 134, 71% of the kids on peanut OIT passed the food challenge.
71% compared to placebo.
Just 2%.
Wow.
Yeah. The OIT group could handle a median dose of over 5,000 milligrams. That's like 16 peanuts. The placebo group, median was 5 milligrams. Tiny amount. The difference was just stark.
That is incredible. Okay, so that's desensitization while on therapy. What about remission after the 6 months off?
That's the next key finding. After the avoidance period, 21% of the kids who had been on OIT met the criteria for remission.
21%.
Compared to, again, only 2% the placebo group. So a significant number achieved that state of non-responsiveness even after stopping the daily dose. For those kids, it suggested, potential long-term freedom.
21% is definitely significant, but it also means that, nearly 80% of those who were desensitized didn't meet that full remission criteria after stopping.
That's a really important point, and yes, that's right. There's nuance here. A good chunk of those who could tolerate the 5,000 milligrams at week 134 couldn't tolerate that same high amount at week 160 after the break.
Okay.
But, and this is crucial for the real world, even if they didn't meet that high bar for remission, many still had a huge improvement.
How so?
Well, 57% of the OIT kids, looking at the per-protocol group, could still safely eat somewhere between roughly 1,700 and 3,700 milligrams of peanut after stopping treatment.
Which is how many peanuts, roughly?
That's like 6 to 12 peanuts. Compare that to their starting point, where they reacted to maybe half a peanut or less.
Right. That's still a massive increase in tolerance.
Exactly. It might not be remission by the strictest definition used in the trial, but for a family, being able to tolerate 6, 8, 10 peanuts instead of having a reaction to a tiny crumb, that's life-changing.
Absolutely. It dramatically reduces the fear of accidental exposure.
Profoundly. It means less anxiety around food, birthday parties, school. It's a clinically meaningful improvement, even if it's not the 5,000 milligram remission.
Okay, that makes sense. So significant benefits even for those not in full remission. But what determined who did get remission? Did they figure out any predictors?
They did, and this is where it gets really, really interesting.
Yeah.
2 things strongly predicted achieving remission: being younger and having lower baseline levels of peanut-specific IgE antibodies.
Younger age. How much younger?
This is the striking part. They broke it down by age group at the start of the trial. Kids who started between 12 and just under 24 months old.
Okay, the 1-year-olds.
They had an amazing 71% remission rate.
71%.
Yeah. For the next group, 24 to just under 36 months, the 2-year-olds, the rate was 35%.
Still significant, but quite a drop.
Right. And then for the oldest group in the study, 36 to just under 48 months, the 3-year-olds, the remission rate was 19%.
Wow. So it's this clear inverse relationship. The younger you start, the much higher your chance of remission.
Precisely. It really points towards this idea of a window of opportunity early in life where the immune system is maybe more receptive to this kind of change.
And did they see changes in the immune system markers to back this up, the IgE you mentioned?
They did. The OIT treatment led to a significant decrease in that peanut-specific IgE that's the main allergy antibody.
Okay.
And at the same time, it caused a notable increase in something called IgG4. IgG4 is often thought of as a blocking antibody, potentially protective.
Right.
Meanwhile, in the placebo group, their IgE levels actually went up over time. They became more sensitized without treatment.
So OIT seemed to actively shift the immune response away from allergy, especially in the younger kids?
Exactly. It provides strong biological support for that window of opportunity concept.
Okay, this is all very promising. But we have to talk about the practical side, the safety. OIT involves eating something you're allergic to. That sounds risky.
It is, and that's a critical aspect families and doctors have to weigh. Safety is paramount. The study was very open about reactions.
What did they find?
Well, nearly everyone on OIT, 98%, had at least one dosing reaction at some point, compared to 80% of the placebo group, which is also interesting, shows reactions happen anyway.
But were the OIT reactions worse?
Most reactions in both groups were actually mild to moderate. Things like hives, maybe some stomach upset.
Okay, manageable stuff. But what about serious reactions? Did people need epinephrine, the EpiPen?
Yes, some did. 21 out of the 96 OIT participants, so it's 22%, about 1 in 5 needed epinephrine for a reaction during the study. It happened 35 times in total across those 21 kids.
Where did these tend to happen? At the clinic or at home?
Mostly at home. And interestingly, mostly during the maintenance phase when they were on the higher doses, specifically doses above 600 milligrams.
So not usually during the initial build-up phase.
Less often, it seems. Mostly with those steady higher maintenance doses. And it's worth noting, 7 of those 21 kids who needed epinephrine eventually withdrew from the study. So it can be challenging.
Understandable. Were there any other safety flags?
There was one other thing. About 3% of the OIT kids were referred for evaluation of something called eosinophilic esophagitis, or EOE.
Okay.
It's an inflammatory condition of the esophagus that can sometimes be linked to OIT. It needs careful monitoring.
So bottom line on safety, remarkable benefits possible, but there are real risks. Reactions are common, some can be serious, And careful medical supervision is absolutely essential.
Absolutely. It's a partnership between the family and medical team. You have to go into it with eyes wide open, understanding both the potential upside and the risks involved.
Right. Okay, so IMPACT showed these great results, desensitization, even remission for some, especially younger kids. But that was measured right after the trial, or 6 months later. The huge question is, does it last? Years later, are these kids still benefiting?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And thankfully, we have follow-up studies that looked exactly at that.
Great. What did they find? Let's start with the immune system. Did those antibody changes stick around?
Yes, they did. The IMPACT Plus study checked back 5 to 7 years after the original trial ended. And guess what? Those kids who got OIT still had significantly lower peanut IgE levels and higher IgG4 levels compared to the placebo group.
5 to 7 years later.
Yep. Suggesting that early intervention created a really lasting immunological shift. It wasn't just a temporary effect.
That's incredible. Okay, that's the lab results. What about real life? Were they actually eating peanuts years later?
This is probably the most exciting part. Another long-term follow-up looked at kids 5 to 9 years after IMPACT finished. They asked about peanut consumption.
And?
Of the group who had been advised they could introduce peanut into their diet after the trial, an amazing 88%, that's 22 out of 25, were still eating peanuts regularly.
88% 5 to 9 years later.
Yes. Many were eating it daily, or at least a few times a week.
Yeah.
That's a much higher rate of continued real-world eating than we've seen in a lot of previous OIT follow-up studies, especially in older kids.
Wow. That really speaks to the potential durability, especially starting young.
It really does.
Yeah.
It suggests that for many of these kids, the OIT didn't just temporarily desensitize them. It led to a long-term ability to incorporate peanuts into their diet, real dietary freedom.
Amazing. But is it completely risk-free by then, or is there still a need for caution?
That's the important counterbalance. It's not a complete cure in the sense of zero risk forever. Vigilance is still needed.
Okay.
About a third of those kids who were eating peanuts, 9 out of 25, reported having at least one reaction since the study ended. And 5 of those 9 needed epinephrine at least once during that time.
So reactions can still happen years later, even if you're eating it regularly.
They can. It highlights that while the risk is dramatically reduced compared to baseline, it's not necessarily eliminated entirely for everyone. You still need to be prepared.
Makes sense. But despite those occasional reactions, how did families feel about the risk overall? Did that change?
Yes, and this is huge. Participants reported feeling significantly less perceived risk compared to when they started the IMPACT study years earlier.
So even with the occasional reaction, the overall anxiety level was lower.
Much lower. That psychological burden being lifted, that's a massive quality of life improvement for the whole family. Less fear, more freedom.
So let's try and wrap this all up. What's the core message from IMPACT and its follow-ups?
I think the core message is pretty clear and quite hopeful. Early peanut OIT started in those first few years of life. It can lead to really significant desensitization for most kids. And for a meaningful number, especially the youngest ones, it can lead to remission, the ability to eat peanuts even after stopping treatment.
And these effects seem to last.
The evidence suggests yes. We see lasting changes in their immune markers, and importantly, we see high rates of continued real-world peanut consumption many years down the line.
With that crucial finding about age.
Absolutely. That idea of a window of opportunity. The younger the child, particularly those starting around age 1, the better the chance of achieving full remission. It really reinforces that timing seems to matter.
It's powerful stuff. Okay, so to leave our listeners with something to chew on, given these findings, especially about the window of opportunity, what does this suggest for the future? Could we maybe be thinking about prevention or treatment even earlier? Could this change public health approaches?
It definitely raises those questions. If intervening early is so effective, how early could we go? What might prevention look like?
And what about older kids or adults? Does this offer any clues for them, or is that early window really unique, fundamentally different?
That's the big unknown, isn't it? Is there something truly special about that very early immune system, or could we find ways to achieve similar results later in life? Lots to think about.
Definitely. A fascinating look at how science is changing the landscape for peanut allergy. Thanks for breaking that down.
My pleasure. It's exciting progress.